Hello and welcome. I'm Robin Smith with the Rock Your Relationships Sisterhood on Facebook, and maybe you're watching me here in YouTube. So thanks for being here. I'm going to answer some questions from my recent Q&A that I posted in my Facebook group. So definitely join that group at the link below if you want to take part in the conversations and get a chance to ask your questions. And here we go. So the first question is, what can I do to create more intimacy in my relationship? I'm sure you are not alone in this query, so thank you for asking it. And I have a few things to say about that. One thing is I would start with initiating intimacy and emotional intimacy. And that might look like sharing your fears, sharing your desires, sharing your other feelings. So when you share in this way, intimacy, as you may have heard, can be broken up into in, to, me, see, intimacy. So you want to share yourself, your true, authentic self, as best you can. And it's a vulnerable thing to do, but it is an icebreaker. It is a way to open the doors to connection. And so that can be really powerful and to set the tone for other kinds of intimacy you might be desiring. So you can also initiate a conversation about intimacy. That would be another thing that I would recommend, is ask to sit down with your partner and talk about his desires, your desires, and this is where you can talk about your fears and desires and your other feelings if you'd like, your vision for your relationship, things like that. That can be really helpful to just understand each other and get on the same page. So if you're already doing that, you already know you want the intimacy and you both want that and you're just not sure how to create it. If you want sexual intimacy, I'll talk about that in a moment. But this getting on the same page, this understanding each other, is a type of intimacy. And I think it's a really important type of intimacy, this emotional intimacy. But the next thing could be initiating some kind of touch. So if you want to have a more physical intimacy, you could initiate a back rub for your partner or a full body massage. You could invite your partner to take a hot tub or get in the bathtub together, or do something that feels more intimate, holding hands, or maybe it's a sexual encounter that you'd like to initiate. So making time for that, initiating that, is some suggestions, because sometimes we just spring it on somebody, we start doing something and they're not available, right? Their mind's somewhere else, their body's not up for it, they're tired, whatever it is. So I know the spontaneity is a wonderful thing, but sometimes it doesn't work if you're not on the same page. So that's where initiating, like, hey, can we get together at 4 o'clock? Can we get together at 8 o'clock? I want to connect with you. I want to have some just you and me time. And you can talk about how you want to spend that time. There's a thing that you could do, like swap, like maybe what I want from you is for you to really hear me. And then the other person says, well, what I want is a back rub. And so you can each get 30 minutes. You can decide how much time you want each and split the time and give each other what you want, as long as it's comfortable for the giver as well as the receiver. So that's another game you can play. And then I'm going to suggest other games that can be fun. By the way, there are lots of games out there in stores, like a card game where it's like a truth or dare, like do this with your partner or share this with your partner. So you can get all these prompts that can help you with both emotional and physical intimacy. Or you could do your own truth or dare. Remember that game? Or maybe spin the bottle and you can make up the rules. So stuff like that can be really fun and can make it lighter if it seems like it's gotten heavy for some reason. Let's see what else I have for you. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that. So those are some ideas. Make a comment below if any of that's helpful for you, or if you want to add your own ideas. I totally welcome that. And let's move on to the next question. So next question is, this is a little more complex. How do you allow yourself to be vulnerable? and build trust in a relationship as you begin to build anew after your spouse has said they don't love you, but then they realize they are depressed and do love you and want to try to save your marriage. Okay, so very specific, and I know this person, so I'm going to speak to this. So I love that you're asking about building trust, and I responded to this in another recent Q&A where I said, building trust takes time and patience. Everybody has their own pace with how long it takes to feel trusting, often based on what's happened before, either within that relationship or in earlier relationships. If you've had a lot of betrayal, it's going to take more time usually to build trust. So you just have to go at your own pace and the pace of both people. And I always will say, go at the lowest common denominator. So the person that has the most boundaries, the most limits, that you need to honor those first and foremost. So you can't be, just because one person feels safe, it doesn't mean the other one does. So it has to go with the person who's got the most limits. So that being said, I know that in your relationship, you have been together a long time. And so fortunately, you have this foundation of knowing each other. You have built trust together. You have a lot of history. So just saying that could make it a little easier. Although if there's been a betrayal, I know that can be super painful and it can kind of shut you down. So building anew, like you said, again, is a process. So, but your question was how to be vulnerable. And, in order to be vulnerable, generally you have to feel some sense of safety, or else you're just, you're going to be too tense. So you want to have a certain amount of safety, like it's okay for me to step up to this edge and just test that out. And then if that worked out and you still feel it's okay, then you might push the edge a little more this time or the next time. So it could be something like that, where you're just very careful with like testing the waters and seeing how it goes. And then over time, maybe you relax a little more and trust a little more. But the ways that you could be vulnerable are what I just shared to the last question. The person who asked the last question around intimacy is you could share your desires, your fears, and you could also share your boundaries. Those are really good to share. Like, what are your limits? What's okay? What's not okay? What are your needs around intimacy or vulnerability, or how you connect in your relationship? So sharing things like that can be vulnerable, and it can also really create a safe space for you both to feel heard and to create a connection. So I highly recommend that type of thing, an emotional conversation. And that way you can let yourself be more known and more seen, and ultimately, hopefully you can be more authentic with your truth, with what's true for you. And all of that is an act of vulnerability. And like I said before, intimacy, letting yourself be seen. And that can deepen the connection and build some trust. So I would definitely recommend that. And you can ask to be seen in a certain kind of way. You could say, hey, I have some stuff to share, and I just want you to listen right now without interrupting me. So that could be like you're setting a boundary and making a request, and hopefully they can honor that. And maybe you say, I just need 10 minutes to just share what I have to share, and I want you to really hear me. So let's say the other thing I would say is that you can't, of course, you can only do your part in the vulnerability and in the feeling of safety. And then you don't know what the outcome will be, right? You don't know the other person's response. You don't know if they're going to stay or go. We never know that in our relationships, whether or not there's been some kind of breach of trust or betrayal. So it's always on us to test our own feelings of safety and to ask for a certain kind of safety if we can, or to require it before we move forward, and ultimately to source the safety within. So that's where it comes down to you. Sort of another way of saying what I just said is inquiring, do I feel safe? Am I willing to take this risk right now? And then moving forward at your own pace. there's always a risk involved. We can always get hurt in any relationship, right? Unless we have major walls up, but then you're never going to have closeness if you have the big walls up. So if you want connection, if you want intimacy, you have to be willing to open yourself and take risks. That's just the name. That's just part of the game, right? So the ultimate thing I would say to you is that you have to be okay with yourself. You have to be okay with taking the risks, and you have to really trust in yourself to know that you will be okay, even if you get abandoned or rejected, or even if they decide they don't want to be with you, or they betray you again. Ultimately, you will be okay if you do your work to feel safe and strong within yourself. So that's the real work, I would say. And then, and the more you know yourself and create your own inner safety and inner strength, then you're going to feel safer in taking risks as well. So let me know how that sounds to you, if that resonates. If you have any questions about that, put that in the comment section below, wherever you're watching. Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay, so we have another question that's an interesting one. And you can see my conversation with this person in the Facebook group if you're in there. And she says, so how to do a relationship audit? So she explains that her partner sat her down and wanted to audit the relationship, like look at everything that's happening and kind of question whether it's going to work. And part of this person's question to me was, is getting an ultimatum in 1 month enough, or should it be a 6-month or more process? Then as we had a chat on Facebook, she said he's asking for 2 months. And she said he's actually having his parents move into the household during this audit time. So I had a big red flag for myself around that, because that seems super imbalanced to have his parents, people who are on his side, move in. I don't think they can be unbiased. I don't know them, I don't know you or any of the people involved, but I would guess they're probably going to have some bias. And so I don't think that's going to put you in a position of feeling at ease and relaxed having his parents there. How could you be your true authentic self with anyone new in the household that you haven't already been in? So I don't think that's a good setup for you or for your relationship in general, honestly. That being said, I know you are not asking about that, but that's my 2 cents about that. Take it or leave it. I don't think 1 month is fair at all. I don't think 2 months is enough to audit the relationship. I don't know your relationship, but it takes time for stuff to come forward. And if you're doing some deeper work, I would recommend, if you are doing this audit thing that you're talking about, that you see a counselor during this time, that you work with a relationship coach or counselor or therapist, whoever, to really have an unbiased voice and support for you both as you're looking deeper into what's happening in your relationship. So often, I coach a lot of couples, by the way, and so often people think their problems is what's happening on the surface. They're not communicating, they're shutting down, they're blaming you, there's criticism, all that stuff. And I'm not going to argue with that being a problem. That stuff is a problem. It can be a problem. But usually in therapy and deeper work that we do, we need to get under the surface and look at what's driving this behavior. So it's not just about the behavior, but it's about the beliefs, the feelings involved. And that's not going to come up in a month necessarily. 4 sessions or whatever you're doing is probably not going to be enough time. So I would recommend giving it at least 3 months as a starting point, and then being willing to reassess at that time, maybe 3, maybe even 6 months. When I see couples, I ask for a 6-month commitment because I see them twice a month. I know it can take time, again, for this stuff to come to the surface, for people to understand each other. If you're seeing somebody once a month, maybe you'll get to it sooner. But if it's an important relationship, why rush it? Let this stuff come to the fore, because if you don't deal with it now, you're probably going to deal with it in the next relationship, because it's still your stuff. It's still the ways that you get triggered, the pain points that you have, the old wounds, whatever, however you want to talk about it. It's going to keep surfacing unless you actually deal with it. So in my perspective, it's an awesome opportunity to deal with it with somebody you've been with a long time, as long as there is some trust and safety and there's not a lot of walls up and wounding happening, or a lot of, betrayal, because that can be harder. But if you want to do the work and you want to see if you can work it out, then give it some time, give it at least 6 months. That's what I would say, unless you're in some kind of hurry. Okay, so I have answered the questions. If you have more, please put them below. If you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, like, and please hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of my next videos. I'm doing more of these Q&A sessions because I love meeting you in your needs. And I've got lots of other videos on YouTube, so make sure to check that out. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Also, sorry, one more thing. I'm going to put the link to my ultimate communication checklist below here. So when you click on that, you'll get my free checklist, which is a super fast read. It's about 2 minutes to get through it. And you're going to check off everything that you are doing in your relationship around communication. And you'll see where the gaps are. And you'll also be learning along the way, because you'll see all these points I'm making around communication. And you'll learn, what that you might want to be doing those things. So I highly encourage you to grab that checklist, and then you'll get, on my email list, and you'll get more notifications about free trainings I'm doing, other free offers, and opportunities to get together. So I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.